Hey everybody, it's John the Other. Guess what arrived in my mail yesterday? Well, not mail exactly, it arrived by UPS. But I finally got this, which I ordered online. And now this is the book by Elizabeth Sheehy, which makes the case for and justifies the commission of spousal homicide, spousal murder, by women in domestic violent relationships. Yes, Elizabeth Sheehy is the professor of law who wants to change Canadian law to allow women to murder their partners, male partners. What kind of book is this? Well, according to the jacket, it is a landmark achievement. This book moves beyond traditional debates in the field to show the complex interactions of institutional actors and legal processes with legal doctrine. It will quickly become a classic work on abused women and the criminal justice system in Canada. Well, I think it will quickly become a classic book on murderous women in the criminal justice system in Canada. But there's more on the back cover. Something I want to make sure everybody is aware of. This is the third quote from, a reviewer that they've decided to publish on the cover of the book. A powerful examination of cases involving battered women who kill their male partners. That's the operative phrase. Who kill their male partners. Shooting an abuser in the back of the head as he is leaving the room is self-defense, even if the battered victim had a chance to leave and didn't. So if you're in a violent relationship, don't put your shoes on and open the door and walk through it. No, load a gun, wait till his back is turned and shoot him in the back of the head. It says that on the cover. Elizabeth Sheehy. Defending battered women on trial should actually be called defending murderous women on trial, but who's to quibble over a little item of diction such as that. Anyway, this book is, in my opinion, a gold mine. It is an absolute treasure trove. The reason this book is so important, not just to ideologues who want to legalize and normalize murder in the Canadian court system, but feminist legal activism and lobbying and fraudulent research and creation of mythology happens in snippets here and there. An anecdote here, a court case there, a decision over there, a fraudulent claim made in popular media over here, over there, and it's all distributed and not collected in one place. So whenever you point to any item of fraud or narrative construction, there is this diffusing technique, this diffusing phenomena that people can think of, well, that's just one item. That's just one item out of a career, or that's just one element out of a court case or a media presentation or what have you. What Elizabeth Sheehy has done is collect all of the intention, all of the narrative, all of the fraud into one concise volume. It's all collected here. This is the key to unraveling a 25-year enterprise of fraud with the intention of normalizing murder, of legalizing murder. In fact, she did such a good job of providing the roadmap for anybody wishing to deconstruct this, that in the acknowledgments, in the first pages of text of the book, she provides the names of all the researchers and activists whose work you need to go look at to find the fraud. I mean, there's a long list of names on the front page of this book. It is a work of art of fraud and lies and misdirection and emotional manipulation. Yeah. I've been very characterizing about the book so far. People think, oh, you're being unfair, John. You're poisoning the well. You're, telling a story without providing the content. Okay. Here is the introduction of LA. In September of '86, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Angelique Lynn Lavallee killed her common-law partner Kevin Rooster Rust in a situation not recognized by Canadian law as allowing self-defense. Rather than killing in an ongoing physical confrontation, she fired a gun as he turned and walked from the room. Killed a man walking away. Reading down the page a little bit farther. She talks about the argument made by the lawyer. The guy's name was Brodsky. Brodsky's argument was a bold one for the criminal justice system. Its procedures, assumptions, and rules were never designed for women, especially those who killed their husbands or partners. In fact, the law historically authorized husbands to exercise violent authority over their wives, here it comes, and made it very difficult for women to escape from brutal husbands. The phrase rule of thumb is inherited from the notion that men were entitled to beat their wives with sticks as long as they were no longer or no wider than a man's thumb. She puts the rule of thumb myth in the first page of her introduction. It's in the second paragraph on the first page of her introduction. Rule of thumb. Now, for anybody who thinks that the rule of thumb was ever legitimately a law or a social rule that allowed men to beat their wives with a rod or some sort of a club no wider than the diameter of their thumb, I'm going to read you something else from Christina Hoff Sommers. The chapter title is called Rule of Thumb Has Nothing to Do with Wife Beating. As it is told in the opening essay of one of the most popular textbooks in women's studies, Women: A Feminist Perspective, the popular expression rule of thumb was originated from English common law, which allowed a husband to beat his wife with a whip or a stick no bigger than the diameter of his thumb. The husband's prerogative was incorporated into American law, blah, 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 blah. It's fraud. It's a myth. You know what the actual expression rule of thumb comes from? It comes from medieval tradesmen. Before there was standardized, mechanically produced, standard tool sizes. You could go to Home Depot and buy a tape measure, and everybody's tape measure was exactly the same. Rule of thumb was a medieval way of craftsmen, tailors, and small carpenters of measuring 1 inch. This is approximately 1 inch. And almost everybody has this roughly the same. So the rule of thumb is a medieval way of measuring the distance of 1 inch. For a craftsman, a tradesman, a carpenter, a tailor, and so on, in a period of human history when we didn't have standardized mechanical tape measures. That's where rule of thumb comes from. This professor of law who teaches at the University of Ottawa has in the first page of her introduction this widely debunked, well-known lie. The whole book is wall-to-wall lies, misdirection, fraud, deception, and manipulation. And we will be continuing to tear it apart, particularly on the website of Community Organized Compassion and Kindness, or CanadianCock.org. Now, the second part of this video is that last week I asked people to send me common phrases or items of rhetoric from the gender ideological perspective that I would be examining and interpreting with attribution in this video. And I did get quite a lot of submissions. I can't actually address them all in one video. But let's look at a few now. We've got 2 terms today. The first was submitted by the user Durakan. The term is social justice. This is a synonym for vigilante justice and mob rule. However, it's distinguished from mob rule and vigilantism by its label, social justice, which is a term designed to obscure the nature of the thing being described and to also make what's being described something which commands automatic assent. You cannot oppose social justice on rational grounds that it's a phenomena encompassing the issuance of threats, coercion, blackmail, social aggression, harassment, and any other number of evils, because if you oppose it, you are, what? Antisocial. You're anti-justice. Social justice has the sound of something good, and only a very bad person could possibly oppose it. Except that in the actual practice, it's rarely anything except condemnation and harassment of people for not being politically correct enough, or pious enough, or not visibly members of enough overlapping recognized minority victim demographics. And the practitioners of social justice are, to put it bluntly, self-serving, amoral, censoring, threatening, and harassing thugs whose behavior is aggressive, bigoted, and, quite often, borderline criminal. The next term was submitted by the user J. Lassie, and it is lived experience. This is a term used by ideologues to construct social reality, to fabricate cultural narrative, and to create, often from whole cloth, a picture of reality when actual evidence for such storytelling is absent. What do? If you have no data to back up your claimed hypothesis of how the world works, you use the term lived experience. It's an emotional trump card. It's a way of telling rational people that their rational view is irrelevant because of the, quote, lived experience of whoever may be trying to normalize an agenda built on nothing except emotional desire, ego gratification, and, in the case of gender ideologues, self-serving victim fantasy, for the purpose of controlling social discourse. The term itself is actually a synonym of something else, that when we replace that term back into the conversation reveals just how specious any narrative fabricated relying on it really is. Lived experience is a synonym for anecdotal evidence. In other words, urban myth, hearsay, rumor, and straight-up storytelling. So those are the items of gender ideological rhetoric that were suggested by people in the comments threads of last week's video. If you're interested in supplying more of that, it's all going to be collected on a page of Community Organized Compassion and Kindness, or CanadianCock.org, link in the low bar, and that's going to be accumulating on an ongoing basis. But I have another question, and that is, what is the most effective or the most succinct piece of advice that you would like to offer to radical feminists from the platform of this channel? Put that in the comments thread below. And next week, we're going to be examining what, according to Elizabeth Sheehy, is the rationalization and the reason to kill people if you have a vagina. The idea that women are so uniquely incapable and weak that their only option is murder. So if you'd like to help us take down this legal activist, gender ideologue, and murder enthusiast who teaches law at the University of Ottawa, you can subscribe to this channel. You can subscribe to the channel of Diana Davison, the other founder of Canadian Community Organized Compassion and Kindness, or COC, which is the channel Feminism and LOL, link in the low bar, or you can donate to CanadianCock.org. There's a link for that in the low bar as well. Or put yourself on the CanadianCock.org mailing list. To everybody else, thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.